I would say my financial background wasn't anything specific. It was just this like muddy, blurry thing where I didn't talk about it with my parents. They didn't share anything about finances. They didn't tell us what to do with money, how to handle money.
Before Christ and walking with Christ, it was very much a lot of walking in the world and listening to what the world had to say about, how to spend money and how to live your life and what actually made you happy. And, you don't really need God. You can do it all on your own. And I had lived the way the world had told me to live. I even remember my grandmother, who was my favorite person in the whole wide world, that she was like, you'll always have a car payment. You'll always have this payment. And she never said it joyfully. It was never like, you're always going to have a payment. It's like, you're always going to have a payment. So I just thought that was normal. I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing. We were pretty much living in the same house, but nothing was combined. Like, we had our own separate accounts and, I'll pay these bills, you pay these bills. And if we fall into trouble or if we need help, then we'll reach out to the other person. Of course, we were doing whatever we wanted, bought whatever we want, fell into the I deserve, so I'm gonna get this. And, I can afford to make the payment, so I can afford it. And ended up tens of thousands of dollars in debt, just me alone. That wasn't even him combined with me.
We weren't following anything other than worldly possessions and what other people were doing and things like that. I probably had a dozen or so different credit cards, and most of them were maxed out. There was one point in 2009, I was at work and I got a phone call from Kristine saying, a sheriff just came to the door and you've been served with a notice that you're going to court. You have something you have to go to court for. You didn't pay something. What is this? What's going on?
I vividly remember that because I just said, if I didn't love you, your stuff would be out on lawn and we would be done.
I felt shame, and it was one of those things that I didn't want to talk about. I tried to hide all these things.
We had so many money fights and there was just so much bitterness. Like, there was a lot of well, I'm paying this much for this amount, and but he's only paying this bill and it's this amount. I was just in the mind frame of, if I had a house, I'd be happy. If I had more money, I'd be happy. If I had my dream job, I would be happy. None of that stuff made me happy. And I had just gotten to the point where I was so depressed that I was considering taking my own life. We had 2 dogs at the time. The thought of just trying to figure out which dog to kill first before I kill myself that's when I realized I had reached, that had to have been when I realized I reached rock bottom. I ended up telling him one day, I feel like I need to go to church, or I need to try it out. And he said, okay. I had passed New Life for about 10 years with that feeling, I should go in and check them out. But me being stubborn, I never did. So many things happened during the sermon and after the sermon that I knew that was a place God had called me to. So, and that was in July. And then that September, they were hosting Financial Peace University. So I was like, well, what I've been doing hasn't been working. I've gotten promotions and it's made things worse. So I decided to go ahead and take the class, and it turned my financial world upside down. That's when I started tithing and started working my way with the budget on pen and paper, the way he had laid it out in the class. And so I had started working my way out of debt.
Going through this class, it wasn't just a money class. It was a relationship class, a communication class. It was all these other things, but I started seeing all these different changes. Just the brightness of her smile was different. She cared more about other people. What I began to notice after that was, financially speaking, if we were gonna go out to dinner or something, before we would kind of take turns paying and things like that. She would say, it's not in the budget right now, I don't want to do that. I can't spend the money. And to me, that was a little bit of a shock. It wasn't what we always did. We would go out and spend money and put on a credit card, it's okay. We probably paid for that steak dinner over the course of 3 years or 4 years or something. But those were the first things, the first changes that I noticed in her. I decided to come to one of the dramas at New Life, came to know Christ, then coming to New Life the very next week. And I've been almost every week since then now. I was at the point where I tried to fill up the gas tank going home from work one day, and it took me 3 credit cards to find one that had enough available balance to fill that tank and get home for the night. And that was kind of the point where I just had enough. So when financial peace was coming around, I knew I needed a different plan. And we went as a couple at that point. It's a 9-week class, and during that class, I just latched on to every principle that was taught. When we put the budget together during financial peace, that's when we combined finances. For the very first time in our marriage, we decided, you know what, we need to be yoked as one. We need to be working as a team. And it was God that multiplied our finances during that time. She had been tithing since starting at New Life. March of 2016, when I started at New Life, I began tithing because in my head it was always, I can't spend this money, I can't take 10% out because I need to pay off this debt. I have other things that need to happen. But when we surrendered and decided to follow biblical principles with money, and we continued to tithe through getting out of debt, it was like a multiplication instead of a subtraction of 10%. God multiplied what we had been earning and what we had been putting into our accounts and paid off that debt by November of 2017. We were on our way to Sight and Sound to see the miracle of Christmas, and on the way we were having another budget meeting talking about finances, and realized then that we had enough in our account that if we moved some things around on our budget, that we could be debt-free other than the mortgage. So in the car, we made a payment to the credit union for the last of the credit cards and became debt-free the week of Thanksgiving 2017. Mm-hmm. There's no way that my plan could have done that.
No.
My plan didn't do that from 2009 to 2017. And following Jesus put us on the path to clean that up. That aspect of our lives was completely washed.
When we realized how God could use this in our lives and the transformation that has happened in our relationship, in our finances, and how we treat each other and how we treat other people, we became passionate about it. So passionate that we were asked to actually co-lead Financial Peace University, and we did. And that becomes an opportunity. Talking about finances with other people on a high level has become an opportunity to witness and minister to other people and to show them anybody can do this. Instead of making a car payment, we're able to give to this organization. Or instead of making a credit card payment to MasterCard or Visa, whatever it is God puts on our heart, we're able to do.
The freedom has been life-changing for us. As a manager at Lowe's, there would be times where I would close one day, 11 p.m., and the next day have to be back there at 5 a.m. That position paid really well, and I thought I could never get away from something like that. And if I had all these credit card payments that were due, there's no way that I could have left that kind of a job. But I was able to take a pay cut that, quite frankly, most people would call me crazy for doing. Now I go into work at 7 a.m. I'm home every night to have dinner with my wife. I can come to church and help out in different ministries. This kind of freedom I've had for 2 years and the financial freedom alongside it, it's just been amazing.
The other thing is, with all this COVID and not sure if we were going to work or not, we have our emergency fund set up. So going into this and knowing, well, we're going to be okay, that's a kind of peace that you can't buy. I'm Kristen.
I'm Alex.
This is why we follow Jesus.